Welcome to Fresh Catholic, a podcast for those who are converting, reverting, or simply want a fresh perspective of the Catholic faith to help them to open their hearts and minds to become closer to the love and goodness of Christ. My daily prayer is that I will be a bright light to others, to be filled with the love and light of Christ, so that when people look at me, they see Him radiating out from me for His glory. Hello and welcome. I'm Lori Balderas, and I'm so happy you're here. Well, summer is upon us. Schools are getting out. People are taking off on vacation. Some of us will have some time off. Some of us won't. You might be heading to the beach or on a road trip. What a great time to catch up on Fresh Catholic podcast episodes. Perhaps start at the beginning if you've just recently started listening and started with the most recent. Head back to the beginning and start there. Or go back and listen to the episodes you haven't heard before. Or maybe even some of your favorites. I sometimes go back and listen to some of my favorites, so that's an idea too. Also, why not start your summer days with listening to the daily readings? Nothing better to get your day going and on the right track. Or you could go to our website, freshcatholic.com, or YouTube to check out Fresh Catholic courses with educator Charles Merritt. In the first series, Pivotal Prayers, Charles explores and teaches about two foundational Catholic prayers, the Hail Mary and the Our Father. It's fascinating to hear Charles explain and teach why we pray these prayers and what they mean. This is a good learning thing maybe for your kids during the summertime, a little course for them over the summer. We are in production and have been filming the next series on sin, so go check out the trailer for that and see what that's all about. Very soon, we will be offering a downloadable book that expands on Charles' lessons. How cool is that? It will have biblical references and more. Coming soon, keep a lookout. While you're at our website, freshcatholic.com, check out Fresh Catholic Comics, our blog, the podcast, our exclusive faith-based online store with Fresh Catholic merch that Simon designed himself, and Fresh Catholic coffee, 17 flavors roasted and shipped the same day. You could have iced coffee in the summertime. Look at that. Any purchase will help support the Fresh Catholic ministry, and we would appreciate anything. Thanks so much for all of you who are supporting the weekly podcast and Fresh Catholic Daily, the daily readings, by listening, subscribing, rating with 5 stars, and reviewing. It really all helps if you could do that. We would so much appreciate it. And thanks to my followers on Instagram and Facebook at Fresh Catholic. Thank you for your love, your thumbs up, your comments, following me, sharing with your friends. I appreciate it. I have little daily videos. Go check those out. So, here we go in the episode. So, I like to think of May as Mother, Women, Blessed Mother Month. It's my own little theme in my head. Go have a listen to those episodes if you haven't already. And I think of June as Father, Men, Priesthood, and St. Joseph Month. Next week, I will have a return special guest. Educator Charles Merritt will come and we will talk about men, toxic masculinity, Harrison Butker, and the bad rap men are getting these days. I don't like it, and I want to talk to Charles about it. I think it will be a very interesting episode, so please tune into that. But this week, I wanted to start off the month with a representation of one of my most popular and most listened to episodes with Father Matthew Miguel. He is a priest at our church, Our Lady of the Assumption in Ventura, California. This episode that we recorded last year is about the priesthood, specifically Father Matthew's journey to becoming a priest and his experience thus far. This was recorded last June, so he has a whole nother year under his belt by now. But this episode I found to be very important, valuable, engaging, and interesting for people who might be discerning the priesthood or might have somebody in their family that would be interested in listening to this episode. I just thought it was a beautiful episode. It was wildly, wildly popular as he's a popular priest. He's also very humble and he's very focused on Jesus and the Lord. And I just love this interview. So even if you heard it last year, I encourage you to listen again because it's just such a great episode. And if you didn't have a chance to hear it yet, please listen and share with your friends. So without further ado, please listen and enjoy my interview with Father Matthew Miguel. Hello, Father.
Lori, thank you so much for this invitation, and I'm excited to be here with you and just to share my experience with you for the past 2 years as a priest here at Our Lady of Assumption.
And what's also very interesting is today is your 2-year anniversary.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been a whirlwind, and these past 2 years has gone by so fast, and I just felt like I just got ordained last week.
You've accomplished a lot in 2 years,
Definitely.
I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these past 2 years at OLA, I've experienced so many situations with family, with friends, with different ministries, and I know for a fact that I've grown so much these past 2 years.
Yeah. So you and I met a few years ago. Actually, I remember when you came and you were our seminarian at Our Lady of the Assumption, and you and I, we actually hung out and did things with some of our friends at the church, and I just really liked everything about you, and I was hoping you were going to continue and become a priest. I was very thrilled when I found out you were going to become a priest, and then even more thrilled when I found out that you were going to come and, I don't know what the official term is, but where you would come and spend your first residency. Assignment.
Yes.
I guess you're not, Celine Dion, you don't have a residency.
Well, the funny thing is, honestly, when my internship was at Our Lady of Assumption, it is very rare for any priest newly ordained to be assigned at their internship parish. And when I received the news to be assigned at Our Lady of Assumption, everyone, all the parishioners in the community was just overwhelmed with joy.
They were. For sure. We needed like a really beautiful breath of fresh air because we were coming off of COVID and we were sad to see Father Joe leave. We knew that was a part of it, but I know we were sad about that. And then we got this gift that's you. And I just think it really just made everybody so happy that you were the one that came. So I know it was like a gift from God.
Yeah. Normally when a newly ordained gets assigned to a parish, they don't know anyone. And knowing that I was there as an intern, I felt like I was going back home, and everyone welcomed me once again with open arms. And, it was just a great joy to celebrate my Thanksgiving Mass outside in the Marian Plaza. And it was just nice to see familiar faces once again.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I remember Andrew and I, who's our music director, were talking about, okay, well, we really have to think of him in a different way now. We have to be very respectful of the fact he's not our pal anymore. We really have to call him Father Matthew, and it can't just be Matthew, And so it's just a big respect I have for you.
Thank you.
Now I think of you, that you're a priest. I really value you as a priest. I just like that you are very serious about your role as a priest.
Thank you.
And you take it very seriously. And I like it that you don't sway with the wind, as I call it. I feel like you go by the book, the literal book. And I like that about you. I don't want to go to a church where everything's shifting with the culture. This is why I became Catholic, is because I like it that has these rules and these guidelines and it gives me safety, it gives me security. And I just really appreciate that about you.
Thank you so much. Being a priest, I'm here to represent Jesus Christ. Although there are so many, unfortunately, priests who, waver in the faith, are not good examples. But, to the best of my ability, and of course with the grace of God, I'm trying my best. We're all trying our best to, be that bridge between the people of God and to God. and just draw the people all the more closer into that personal and deeper relationship with our Lord.
I think another thing I've observed that I think is really important and valuable, you do have that common thread of I'm here in representation of Christ. But when you're dealing with an older group, you're handling them in one way. When you're dealing with teenagers, in another way, and with the children. And I feel like you are meeting them where they are, but that you're very consistent. So it's not like you lower your standards for any of them and raise them in other ones. I just really especially like to watch you with the little children on Thursdays.
Yes.
I even wrote a blog about it because I thought it was, it makes an impression to me. They really gravitate to you. I think actually everybody gravitates to you. My observation is that people are really seeing Christ in you and you're radiating that. So I have some questions.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So, and there are probably questions that a lot of people want to know and about, these are going to be very personal questions to you. But I just think the priesthood is so fascinating. I think it's something, obviously, we need more priests. I know you guys are like super overworked, and I feel like that's due to, that there's not a lot of priests. So what drew you to the priesthood?
Well, when I was a little boy, all I remember is that my parents were heavily involved in, it's a prayer group called Our Lady of Fatima. And so it was like a block rosary. And so every weekend, we would bring the statue of Our Lady of Fatima to different houses. And so all the families would gather, all the kids would gather, and we would pray in front of the statue of Our Lady of Fatima. And we would pray the rosary, we would do some prayers, and afterwards all the kids would just play outside in the backyard. And we would do this for several years. And so that was my little introduction into my prayer and the faith. And then after I received my first communion, my father at that time was the altar server coordinator. And so immediately I was scheduled to be an altar server at the church. And so I loved everything about serving on the altar. My friends and I would always compete every Sunday to see how many masses we would serve that weekend. And after Mass, the parish priest would always invite us for lunch at the rectory. And so all the more I got that personal invitation, I got to know the priest at the parish. Growing up in middle school and high school, I was heavily involved in a youth group at our church called Lambs of Christ. Every time we had those opportunities to serve, my heart was just on fire. And I just loved serving. And I think that's exactly what God gave me. He gave me that gift of service, a servant's heart, and to share my gifts and my talents to those who are in need. And at that time, I remember when I was in high school, I had a girlfriend at that time, and we were very involved in our youth group. And we went to a youth conference in LA, and it was a big gathering, a youth rally of 400 to 500 young people.
Oh, wow.
And it was a day of prayer, adoration, of skits, talks, and just fellowship with the young people. And the highlight of the day was adoration. And so during that time, I was with my girlfriend, and the priest was once again processing through the pews in the church with the Blessed Sacrament in his hands. And the moment when the priest walked right next to me, I felt as if the Lord was hugging me. And I was just crying, and I was just overwhelmed with joy. And when the priest went back to the altar, he was expressing to the young people, boys and girls, if you feel called to the priesthood, to the religious life, don't be afraid. If you feel called to receive a blessing, please come forward. And so I have my girlfriend next to me, and I'm shaking, and I'm just in tears, and all the more I wanted to go forward. And so I went forward towards the blessing, and I received the benediction from the priest. Lo and behold, when I turned around, I looked at my girlfriend, and she was just crying in tears because she knew exactly that God was calling me for a higher purpose. And so immediately after that, I broke up with my girlfriend, and maybe 2 years into high school, my junior and senior year, that's where I decided to discern more properly my calling to be a priest.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. What did your family think about wanting to seek this out?
Throughout my high school years, I knew that God was calling me to be a priest. And so at first, when I told my parents that I wanted to be a priest, they said, finish your studies first, go to college. And of course, being in an Asian family, they wanted me to either become a nurse or a doctor, typical Asian upbringing. But when I told them that I wanted to be a priest, they said, we have your support, but make sure you finish your college first. And so, of course, I thank them for their prayers and support. And so right after high school, that's when they gave me their blessing and I entered a religious order.
What is the process of a man becoming a priest?
Well, it all starts with discernment. And discerning is about discerning two goods. And in my situation, it's all about choosing to go to college. I mean, to be a doctor or a nurse, or to become a priest. And when you're choosing these two goods, you need to seek out a spiritual director. So I sought a spiritual director, and the spiritual director was the one guiding me and helping me discern more fully what the will of God is for me in my life. And so when I made that decision to become a priest, of course, I reached out to my vocation director. And so our vocation director told us, once you finish your undergrad, and I finished mine when I was a religious, finishing it with philosophy, that's 4 years, you enter the grad program at the seminary. And so I was at St. John's Seminary for 5 years in total, 2 years of theology, and then the third year, I was sent out for internship at Our Lady of Assumption, and I finished my last 2 years, theology 3 and 4, at the seminary. The fourth year, I became a transitional deacon, and afterwards, that's when I became a priest. So all in all, more or less 9 to 10 years.
Wow.
To become a priest.
So, and let's see, you have how many siblings?
I have an older sister.
An older
and
sister.
She is 7 years older than me. But when I told her that I wanted to be a priest, she totally, completely supported me. And she said, as long as you are happy, you have my complete support.
That's nice. And then I know that your family moved to Tennessee, correct?
Yes. So basically, in the past 2 years, they had a exodus from California because they were just tired of the expenses and the political situation here. And they decided to move to Tennessee. And so my immediate family, my parents, my sister, and my nephew and my brother-in-law, they all moved to Tennessee. So I'm here all alone in California.
All alone, but not alone.
Exactly.
Yeah. What's the hardest part about becoming a priest?
After much prayer and reflection, honestly, I think it's learning how to say no. We have so many ministries at Our Lady of Assumption, and it's a very busy and vibrant parish, and there's only 2 priests, myself and Father Leon, and we have about 3,500 families. And so every day we have either mass, confessions, anointings of the sick. We have 2 hospitals, CMH and VCMC. We have a grade school, and we have different other ministries and appointments to deal with and cater to. And so I think we don't have enough time in a day to, cater to all these ministries and these families. And so many times they're always calling us. And as much as we want to say yes to all these things, we're only human. And, we can't always say yes to all these commitments because we will get burnt out and we will get exhausted. And so we cannot, deliver properly ourselves to the community if we can't take care of ourselves first.
Right. We just did a misconceptions, 2 parts of misconceptions of the Catholic faith with Deacon Don. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, basically you guys are on call 24/7. Mm-hmm. And if you had a family, somebody would have to suffer. It would either be the flock or your family. Now that you've been a priest a couple of years, could you even imagine if you were to have a wife and children, if that was something that would be allowed, that you would think that that would work? Because it doesn't sound like you have even enough time for yourself, let alone a family.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I do agree what Deacon Don was mentioning regarding the misconceptions of being a priest and, getting married. And I do agree with him, just the fact that we have so many things, again, at the parish. And so if we priests were given the opportunity to have a wife and a family, it would be not a distraction, but another priority in our lives that we would have to balance. And so we would have our family and our church, and there would be just so many other things on our plate that we would not be able to perform our best when it comes to our priestly duties.
Right. So I think that's fair to say that was very true.
Very smart, yes, of what the church teachings were saying about that.
Right, okay. And then what is the best part of being a priest?
The best part of being a priest is relationships. And, I mentioned before, I used to be a missionary. And so I traveled the world and I met so many great families and people along the way, but the time spent with them was only maybe very minimal, very short. But now that I'm here as a diocesan priest at Our Lady of Assumption, it gives me opportunity to journey with these families and to get to know them at a personal level. I baptize these children, and these children will soon receive their first communion. They will receive confirmation, and of course, marriage. And so it's a beautiful opportunity to develop these beautiful friendships along the way that are lasting, that you get to know them, personally, and, these friendships will last forever. And so this is what I see so far at OLA. For the past 2 years, I've developed great friendships, those who are with families, with children, and I love the kids. They always run to me, and, they're grateful of my time being spent with them. They would always invite me to meals, playing, with their kids. And it's all about that friendship and that relationship building that I truly love about the priesthood.
Yeah, I think I can see that that's what's happening with you. I can see that a lot of people, I think you are welcomed by a lot of people. It doesn't hurt that you do Zumba classes.
Not at all. Yes, I mean, that was my goal last year, about building community. And, personally, I love to dance. And, I was like, we need to build something here at the church to just build the camaraderie, the community, and just have something fun. It doesn't have to be about prayer. And so last year, that's when I decided to, lead this Zumba class. And we invited an instructor to come over. And, though the classes were among women, blessed are those among women, it was a great opportunity because it was just a lot of fun. And, the ladies there, some of them were Catholic, some of them were not, some of them were just coming from different, parts of their lives. And it was all about dancing.
No, and I think it was very successful.
Oh, it
right?
was very successful.
Well, and I think it's also good to do, I don't want to say normal things, but not things that are all religion based, just to show like we do like to be together. We do like to do these things. But to have that safe space of, it's going to be people who are kind of in the same mindset as you are, that I just feel safe and secure, like the people around me,
Of course.
So yeah, I think that's really good.
It's funny because, I remember one time I was at the gym and I was on the treadmill, and this lady a few treadmills next to me kept on looking at me. And I was wondering, why is she looking at me? And so later on, she comes up to me and she says, "Father Matthew, is that you?" And I said, "Yes." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know priests can exercise." Right? And I think that's a thing that a lot of people, misunderstand is that, we are human. We like to have fun. We need our exercise. And so, yes, Father Matthew does
Yeah,
exercise.
that's great. And what has been the biggest surprise to you since you became a priest?
The biggest surprise for me right now is honestly the sacrament of reconciliation. It's a beautiful gift that God has given us priests, and so many parishioners, so many people coming from different walks of life have so much burden on their shoulders, and they need to just let it all out. And of course, the sacrament of confession is that opportunity. It's a safe place for them to share whatever they're going through. And, I always tell them they're not talking to me, but they're talking to God. And, just to hear their stories, what they're going through, whether it be depression or family struggles or just, faith in general, just losing faith or hope, I'm very surprised. And just to see that when I give them the absolution and absolving them from their sins and reminding themselves that they are a beautiful child of God, they just break down in tears because a lot of families, a lot of people forget that they are loved, that they are enough, that they are a beautiful son and daughter of the Father. And despite any imperfections or sins that they have committed in the past, God has already forgiven them through his merciful love and, of course, through the sacrifice of his son. And so that has been one of the biggest surprises for me as a priest. And that's one of the most enjoyable moments when I get to just sit down, every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and just to hear the confessions of the people. Because a lot of people are hurting. A lot of people are just broken and they're just longing for that taste of healing, of comfort and peace coming from this sacrament of confession.
Right. I did a whole episode on confession, and one of the things is that I definitely cry every single time I go to confession. It's very serious to me, and I just feel such a relief. And I do definitely look at the priest and, I'm speaking to Jesus. So when people say, well, why do I have to go confess to a priest? Well, you're missing the point. It's not the priest. You're confessing to Christ. And so when I go in there, it's just overwhelming to me. It's an important thing to do regularly and to just have that weight lifted off because, we are all sinners and we are continually sinning. And it's just to carry that around is just kind of too much. And I'm just so relieved, so I just really encourage people to take advantage of that sacrament because it's really important.
Definitely. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what I always tell my penitents in confession is that, these sins, these imperfections that they have committed are bad habits. And these bad habits have become vices. And so in order for you to counterattack that, you need to develop good habits that become virtues. So the only way you can do that is doing something regularly. And one of the practices I always invite them to come to confession on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Because that's where the graces come. And all the more God will give you the grace that you need to overcome these struggles and imperfections in your life.
Right. And it becomes just, I don't want to say a habit, as I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in a good way. I've added confession in more often, and then now I'm going to adoration more. I wasn't doing that. So it's like I'm trying to up my game.
Definitely.
I'm just trying to get, closer and closer to Christ as best I can. And they're very quiet, personal things, but they're really important in just our healing and our makeup and our surrender to the Lord, Yeah. And what do you think is the biggest misconception about priests?
The biggest misconception about priests is that we're sad and that we're lonely, right? I mean, honestly, I have seen several or many priests that they look so grumpy and, not in the mood. but it's not true. You know, maybe they're tired or exhausted, but you know, deep within, I think there's that genuine joy and that happiness when we give our lives to one another, because that is our vocation, that is our purpose in life, and we find more joy and peace and comfort within our own hearts when we continue to give our life for others. And that's what priesthood is all about. We give our lives for the sake of others. We put the needs of others before our own. And you know, when they say that for us priests we're lonely, yes, we do feel lonely, but we're not alone, because we have a loving parish community that continues to watch over us and make sure that we are being cared for. You know, at our rectory, we don't have any chefs, right? Father Leon loves to cook, but we don't have any cooks at our rectory. And so, you know, the parishioners know that. And so, literally every day, nonstop, families or parishioners are giving me Filipino food because they know I love Filipino food. And, you know, Father Leon doesn't cook that stuff. Ever so often, they bring us Tupperwares full of rice and different dishes from the Philippines. And so I feel the love. And I know that, you know, OLA has been a warm, welcoming family in my life. And again, families there continue to invite us, you know, to meals, to have a drink, and just to enjoy each other's company. And so we're not alone, and we will never be alone, because of course God is with us. And you know, when we have the adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, that is our strength. And we know that God is there and He has never left our side and He will never leave our side. And the beauty about the rectory is that upstairs we have a small chapel, and that's where the Blessed Sacrament is residing in. And so anytime during the day or at night, whenever we feel that we're alone, that's when we have the opportunity to just pop our head in and spend some time before, you know, the Lord in the Blessed Sacrament, have that heart-to-heart conversation, and just be still and just listen to Him. Because sometimes we do a lot of talking and there's so much noise and distraction that we forget, or we find it so difficult for us to hear the Lord speaking to us. But He's always talking to us 24/7, nonstop. But we just need to just be present and be still and know that God is always there in our lives.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really am loving about adoration. Okay. What do you wish someone would have told you before you became a priest? Was there something you thought, wow, that I wasn't expecting that. I wish somebody would have given me a heads up.
Well, now that I'm a priest for 2 years, and I just wish that someone would have told me not to get too attached to the families at the parish. You know, now that I have 1 year left at Our Lady of Assumption, you know, it's going to be more difficult for me to say goodbye. And as much as I have loved these great families and these relationships, these friendships here, it's going to be more difficult for me to detach myself and transition to my next assignment come next year. And so, as much as I enjoyed these, you know, the company and the presence of these great families, of course, we'll be in constant communication. But in order for me to grow, I need to be transferred somewhere else and see my gifts and talents, and you know what God has blessed me with, so that I can thrive also. And of course, you know, you're gonna receive a new priest come next year, and you have to give them the opportunity also to grow and mature in his priesthood as well.
Right. Yeah, I would think that would be hard. One of the things I really have been appreciating about something you've been doing that I feel is different, I really appreciate when you're so honest about when you say things like, you know, I had to go, you know, a baby died, or I had to do last rites, I felt helpless, you know, or you'll say, I'm tired, or I don't feel good, or I appreciate that you do that because you are human. And I just think instead of having the facade of like, oh, I can handle anything, I don't know, I like that you are honest about that. Hopefully people will realize that, you know, you have a life, and you are a person, and you maybe sometimes people, like you said, maybe sometimes people get an impression of a priest that they're grumpy or they're serious or they're disconnected, maybe, I don't know. It shows that you do have a heart, and like sometimes you're human and you go in and go, what am I supposed to do, you know? Of course, God must give you the strength, and I'm sure you're very comforting to people because, you know, people are at their worst moment, and I just think you walking in the door, whatever priest, you know, that brings such hope to people.
Yeah, and I think God has given us that special grace to do that, to have that ministry of presence and just be fully attentive to those who are in need, whether it be the kids, you know, the families, or even the elderly, those who are suffering at the hospital. And, you know, we try to be very empathetic with them. And you said it yourself, as strong as we want to be and be that role model and example for the people, sometimes we just break down. And, you know, again, we are human, we're not perfect. And, you know, sometimes we just need that opportunity to just vent out or share our emotions, our feelings. And when we are honest with, you know, the parishioners, that's when we have that connection. That's how the parishioners can relate to what we're going through and vice versa. And so I always encourage or I tell families, don't put us on a pedestal, because we are sinners and we're not perfect as well. And, you know, there are some parishioners there who pray more than I do, right? And there are other people out there who are more holy than I am. But once again, God has given me this grace to be the priest and, you know, to make him present in the Eucharist. And, you know, it has to be that mutual giving of oneself to one another. You know, on the weekend, we can have, you know, in the morning, we can do weddings or quinceañeras. And then in the afternoon, we can be doing funerals. And then at the end, we have the vigil mass on Sunday. And so we cater to different congregations with different emotions. And so it's like a roller coaster. And we have to try to adjust our emotions and our feelings at that moment with that crowd. But again, it's just a roller coaster for us. And sometimes we just get overwhelmed and exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah. How do you think we can draw more men to the priesthood?
It all starts in the family. You know, the family is the foundation and the benefactors of priests and vocations. And so first and foremost, I always encourage the families to pray more often together. And it's always led by example, because at a young age, maybe from 1 to 5, the minds of the children are like sponges, and they soak up everything exactly what the parents say or do in the household. And so if there's a lot of shouting, a lot of cursing, you know, backbiting, they're gonna, you know, it's going to be ingrained in their minds, and it's going to be okay for them to do that when they get older. But if there is a house full of love, of mercy, of forgiveness and understanding, then that's where the seed of vocation is planted, especially with prayer and faith. And so it's through the families. Surround yourself with healthy, good friends, and all the more, that's where they start forming, you know, these vocations, and also have that opportunity to serve the community, whether it be the less fortunate, you know, clothing those who are naked or visiting the sick. You know, when you have the opportunity to give and give your presence to those who are in need, that will again, you know, nurture and foster that seed of vocation in those young men. And it's also very important, of course, to have that nice relationship with the priest. And so as a priest, it's very important for myself to make my presence known to the young people, to the children, to the teenagers, to those that are still growing up. Because when they see these figures, these public figures in their life, and they're down to earth, they're fun, they're, you know, they're chill, they just want to hang out, you know, again, it's all about that same level of relationship with them. Because a lot of teenagers or even kids are like, oh, I didn't know Father Matthew can do this, or he likes to hang out and play video games or whatnot. And so when they have that thought or the mentality that priests like to have fun and enjoy, they have that idea that priesthood can also be fun as well, not just something serious or strict or disciplined, but there's also another side to priesthood. And we have that opportunity to share that with the young men who are discerning or who have that possibility in, searching what God is calling for them in their life.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of young, really nice young people at our church for sure.
Well, I always tell the young people, the teens, the youth are the church. They're not the future of the church. They are the church. And so it's very important for us, adults, to guide them along the way, because in this world that's full of darkness and full of, division and chaos, they need that light. As you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, that we're called to be that light for them and guide them along the way to have that nice, personal, intimate relationship with the Lord. Because in this world of darkness, they are lost. They don't know what's truth. And they are yearning for something that's real. And of course, that is the relationship with Jesus, with our Lord.
Yeah, I love that. I really appreciate you coming today.
Of course. It's been a pleasure.
I just really value you at our church, and I'm going to be sad to see you go, but I know that that's part of the deal. I guess we'll see what happens.
Yes. So please continue to keep me in your prayers, and for those also who are discerning the priesthood as well.
Okay. Anyway, I am really grateful that you came today, and I know that a lot of people will really want to listen to this episode. If you do have any questions for Father Matthew, reach out to him. You can follow him on Instagram and Facebook. And of course, please continue watching Fresh Catholic. I have episodes coming up. One's going to be on childhood, one's going to be on neighborhood. It's going to kind of finish out the Hood series. And so I hope you will look forward to those. And please like, subscribe, and share to my YouTube channel so you can see montages and short clips of the recordings of the podcast. And please follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I have a daily blog on my website. And please send me emails. And thank you. Love you. Bye. Thank you for joining me today. Now go out and be a bright light in someone's life. And remember, be focused, be faithful, and be fresh.
Fresh Catholic is produced, edited, and recorded in Ventura, California.